from Maryland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Liddy, good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Liddy, first of all, I want to thank you for your comments about being concerned about the taxpayers. We, too, are concerned, and I heard your comments about criticism. Let me say this, that when anyone's getting $182 billion of taxpayers' money, many of those taxpayers who have lost their jobs, savings, health insurance, you're going to get some criticism no matter what. But let me go to something that Mr. Bernanke said, Fed Chair Bernanke said just a week ago when he was talking about pay. And he said he had no problem with people receiving high paychecks. He said, but there should be a pay system that prevents excessive risk-taking and at the same time is directly related to performance. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
And are you, so, and I know that you have come under, AIG has come under criticism for these retention payments and the bonuses and whatever. What is being done consistent with Bernanke's statement that I just quoted to address that issue, if anything?
It's a great question, Congressman. I would say the most important thing we can do is not allow a situation like AIG8 to ever get started again. So in AIG8, the participants in that business generally got 30 to 35% of the profits. That can encourage some risk-taking that simply is out of bounds. So the winding down of FP and the comp programs we have in place up there right now are not nearly as lucrative. They are specifically targeted at you get paid if you achieve certain objectives. So I think that is right on point with Chairman Bernanke's view that there's got to be a risk-reward and a pay-for-performance standpoint. So I think we are making good progress on that. In the basic insurance operations at AIG, we've almost all had that. You know, that is much more traditional looking in terms of the leverage that there is on a bonus plan, how much of a relationship there is between a base salary and a performance-based bonus, and they are very performance-based. So in most areas of AIG, I think we are in pretty good shape. It was more in the AIG FP area where I think the compensation systems got out of bounds.
So let me make sure I understand. Now, we had it in more, we had bonuses and retention payments, I think, in more than just FP, right?
Yes, I was trying to respond to the specific part of Mr. Bernanke's comment that there ought to be a trade-off between risks and rewards.
All right. Now, what can the American people expect as owners of 79% of this company with regard to bonuses and retention payments in, say, the next year? After all, and I'm going to say this over and over again wherever I go, they're losing their jobs, their homes, they're losing everything. And so they have no sympathy for AIG. So I'm just wondering, what can you tell them? They're watching you about, you know, what they can expect to see as they're seeing the foreclosure signs go up in front of their houses. What do they expect to see in the New York Times and the Washington Post about bonuses and retention payments at AIG?
Specifically with retention payments, we are trying to recast as many of those as we can to make them performance-based so that you have to earn them, not simply stay for a certain period of time. As I am told, there are Treasury regulations which will be forthcoming that will be very specific about how much you can pay, what base salaries are, what bonuses can be, how those bonuses can be paid. As soon as we get that material, we will revise our comp systems to be in 100% compliance with those regulations.
Last question. Did AIG write swaps on any debt held by creditors to General Motors or Chrysler? And if so, what can you tell me about those swaps?
I don't know. I saw that question someplace, and I just don't have any information on it.
It is a very important question.
I'd be delighted to get the information and
How soon do you think we can get it?
We'll do it as quickly as we can, sir.
Yeah, we want to look into that very carefully. And let me ask you this: on January 15th, you told me in my when we met that you expected to be able to pay back the debt by within 5 years. At that time, of course, I didn't know that AIG would have its largest loss in the history of any company in the world, quarterly loss. What's your projection today?
As I answer this, the congressman over here, I think the answer is 3 to 5 years, but it is very dependent upon what happens to the capital markets. And that loss, as I've attempted to explain in the past to many of you, that loss had two major components. One was worldwide asset values plummeted in the fourth quarter. When asset values go down, we have to reflect that loss in our P&L. That's what drove that loss. Second, when you're worried about the components of your business, you have things like goodwill and deferred tax assets. You aren't going to be able to realize those. You write them off. Those two things alone were the major drivers of that loss. I think the answer, we will be able to repay the taxpayer in that 3 to 5 year time frame, but it is heavily dependent upon what happens with the worldwide economic situation, the success of the stimulus programs that all of the world's governments are bringing to bear, and the condition of the financial markets. We are not an island, and those issues play such a large role in our ability to make progress paying back the taxpayer.
Gentleman's time has expired. I yield